Thank you, Mr. Secretary-General, for speaking with PTI and for your time today, for doing this interview. You'll soon be going to India for the India AI Impact Summit. What are your thoughts and expectations from the India Impact Summit? There's a lot of anticipation around that, and a lot of global tech leaders, world leaders are going to descend in New Delhi for the summit. You've mentioned that AI is an absolutely crucial issue in international relations today. How do you see the summit?
Now, I strongly congratulate India for organizing this summit. It's absolutely essential that AI develops itself to the benefit of everybody, everywhere. And that countries in the global south are part of the benefits of AI. It would be totally unacceptable that AI would be just a privilege of the most developed countries, or a division only between two superpowers. It is absolutely essential that AI becomes a universal instrument for the benefit of humankind. And the role of India, that is today a very successful emerging economy, that is having a bigger and bigger role in not only the global economy, but in its influence in global affairs. India is the right place to have this summit and to make sure that AI being discussed in depth, in all its potential, enormous potential, and also in all its risks, but that AI is belongs to the whole world and not only to a few.
What do you hope the UN contributes to whatever the outcomes come from this summit? What role can UN play? It's happening in the global south, and you've mentioned that it has to be an AI for all. So
we have here approved in the Global Digital Compact 3 very important decisions. First, the creation of the high-level independent scientific panel on AI. 40 scientists I already proposed to the General Assembly. The General Assembly will decide. This means that we will have a totally independent and universal, people coming from all over the world, universal scientific body able to tell the world at each moment, where are we in relation to AI? What are the advances that were made? What are the discoveries that were established? What are the risks of this or that mechanism or instrument? And to do it in a totally independent way. That will be a fantastic source of information for governments to take the right decisions in the policies and in the measures that they take in relation to artificial intelligence, and for the people at large to know, public opinions to know, and in democratic countries like India, that is very important, and to be able to influence governments and the private sector in the good direction. The second thing is that we will have in the UN every year a global dialogue in relation to AI with all countries of the world, all governments represented, but also the private sector, the civil society. That will be, we are not regulating AI from the UN, that is not our role, but to have a platform where everybody can come and everybody can discuss, and where we can learn with each other and eventually come to some possible consensus on the best way to maximize the opportunities of AI and minimize its risks. And third, and very important, I hope that my proposal of a fund will be approved. There was an agreement in the General Assembly in order to support developing countries to build capacity to be able to benefit from artificial intelligence. So these are three very important contributions of the UN, and I believe that these contributions are perfectly in line with the strategy that India has demonstrated in the leadership in the preparation of the present summit.
Right. Coming to the summit, can you discuss and share some light on what your discussions and conversations will be with the Indian leadership? You've met the Prime Minister recently on the sidelines of the G20. Minister Jaishankar was here. What can you share on what your conversations will focus on?
I think there are two things we need to avoid in the world. We need to avoid the system in which there is total hegemony by only one power, or a system in which the world is divided between two superpowers. I am a very strong advocate of the need of true multipolarity in the world. And for multipolarity, true multipolarity, we need the emerging economies, and India is one of the most relevant emerging economies, but we have many others. Emerging economies having a higher and higher role, and to establish a stronger and stronger network of relations, trade relations, technological relations, relations of international cooperation in different sorts. And a good example, India is establishing a trade agreement with the European Union, and we are seeing across the world more and more the creation of a network of, I would say, all developed countries, but also, and very importantly, emerging economies, creating a true multipolarity without any hegemony, and allowing then multilateral organizations to be effective. When one looks at the UN, you can imagine my frustration when I see the Security Council unable to take decisions. And it is clear that we need a fundamental reform of the Security Council. First of all, to represent the world as it is today, and not after the Second World War. And second, to be able to take effective decisions for peace and security around the world. If we want to have a multilateral system that is fair, both in the UN, in the international financial institutions, we need the emerging economies to have a stronger voice, and we need them to be in the center of this networking. And I see India in the center of those emerging economies. And this is something I would be delighted to discuss with Prime Minister Modi, because I have a lot of hope of the role that India can play in shaping this multipolar world.
Right. Coming to the role that you've talked that India can play in this world, whether it's peacekeeping, counterterrorism, SDGs, its tenure in the Security Councils, I wanted to get your thoughts on how you see India's contribution and role over the years in the United Nations system across its specters. It's really been at the forefront of a lot of efforts.
Well, first of all, we have a huge debt of gratitude to India in relation to your presence in peacekeeping. 5,000 Indian women and men are now peacekeepers at this very moment. India had, by the way, the first entirely female police unit in peacekeeping, which was something remarkable. And for us, gender equality is a fundamental objective. And on the other hand, India became an extremely important leader in the discussions on all aspects of the activities of the UN, in peace and security, in sustainable development, where I remember the G20 presided by India, the very important decisions that were taken there, and also in human rights as a democratic country, in a world where unfortunately we see democracy in trouble in so many parts of the world. So this permanent contribution of India to the agenda of the international community, which is the agenda of the UN, is of enormous importance for us.
You've talked about frustrations. I want to come back to UN Security Council reform. Your own frustrations on the delay that's happening, the IGN process, the needle on that hasn't moved. There's frustration among the international community as well, because some countries are holding back this reform that's so urgently needed. How long can the world wait? And is there an alternative if the UN doesn't reform itself? How does it function then?
I think we should distinguish the Security Council from the rest of the United Nations. I'm extremely proud of the extraordinary work that the United Nations is doing in humanitarian aid around the world, in support to sustainable development around the world, in leading the extremely important campaign for climate action, and in developing more and more new areas in relation to what we were doing traditionally. My first reform was to create a counterterrorism office, and counterterrorism became a fundamental priority in our activities. At the same time, the United Nations has been a strong ally of developing countries, fighting for the reform of international financial architecture, to make sure that developing countries have a much stronger participation and voice in the international financial institutions. Having very strong positions on debt relief, on the access to concessional funding for developing countries. So, the UN is not the Security Council. And where the UN is fully represented is in the General Assembly, where all states have the same weight. Of course, it's the fact that the Security Council has been not only unfair in its composition, but ineffective in its action, that facilitates some easy criticism of the United Nations. But I am very proud to be to work with UN, and very proud of my colleagues that do humanitarian aid in the most remote and dangerous areas of the world, and very proud of the peacekeepers, like the Indian peacekeepers, that protect people in very difficult circumstances, also in some very dangerous situations. So I think we need to distinguish, but I believe the UN plays today a very important and positive role. Our brand of the Sustainable Development Goals became a universal brand that all countries, and India has been leading in this dimension, that all countries are pursuing with determination.
Right. Mr. Secretary-General, of course, there's lots to talk about, but finally I wanted to ask you, when you leave, when your tenure ends by the end of this year, it's a different world from the time when you joined 10 years ago. Are you hopeful? Are you concerned for the UN, its place in the world, for multilateralism? What is your message?
My message is that there are many reasons to be, of course, worried. We have seen conflicts multiplying. We have seen injustices, inequalities increasing. We have seen poverty and hunger not being solved in the world. We have seen terrorism developing and becoming a nightmare in different parts of the world. So there are many reasons to be worried. But there are a few positive megatrends. And one of the most important megatrends has to do with the role of countries and economies like India. Every single day, the group of developed countries, G7 and their similar countries, every single day they represent a smaller share of the whole global economy than the day before. And every single day, the emerging economies, in which India is a fundamental pillar, represent a larger share of the world economy than the day before. And this happens every single day, which means that this mega trend will, in time, contribute to a world in which justice, equality, and based on justice, equality, peace, we will have much more conditions to prevail.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary-General, for your time, and I wish you a very good trip to India, a fruitful visit to India, and we'll speak once you're back. So thank you again for your time.
It is always fantastic to go to India. That is a democracy with an enormous diversity and a extraordinary civilization and culture. By the way, the book I'm reading now is a book about how India, for centuries, has been the main factor of transformation of the world. And this starting hundreds of years before Christ and going on for centuries with an enormous influence of Indian culture, of Indian civilization that we can see in China, in Southeast Asia, that we can see in the Indian Ocean, and even in the time of the Roman Empire, there were very strong connections with India and a very important influence of Indian culture in what is today the Mediterranean area. So it is always an enormous pleasure to visit India.
Right. And India is looking forward to welcoming you as well for this summit and even further. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaskar.